Hello and welcome back to Pentor Cars, Cornish Car Collectors, and another in our series of commuting to work in a modern classic. As regular viewers of this series will know, my drive to work is from just inside Cornwall up to Exeter, and it's around sort of 66 miles if I go the roadway, if I cross the Tamar suspension bridge there at Saltage, or if I take the short ferry link between Cornwall and Devon, it's around 49 miles. Now today I've chosen to go the road route to do those extra miles, and the reason I wanted to do that today is because I'm in the ultimate driving machine, and actually this is one of the ultimate driving machines, because today we're driving to work in my 1998 BMW E36 M3 Evolution. So here we are crossing over the Tamar suspension bridge. They've actually been resurfacing the bridge for the past couple of months. It's resulted in quite a few delays, but we're fortunate today we've missed all of those. What I don't like is all the new tarmac hitting the bottom of the car, but we'll get over it. Now the real benefit about crossing the bridge is that you get to the toll booth and then you get to accelerate away on the A38 uphill up to sort of 70 miles an hour. Now I always pick the wrong lane here, and I'm sorry that I can't show you. The dash camera is actually not working today, so you have to take my word for it that we're behind a little Citroen C1 who looks very confused about how to use the bridge. But here we go. Thank you. Thanks very much. Lovely engine note from this car. Okay, let's go. 3.2 litre, straight six, 320 horsepower. Well, that was 60 miles an hour, and we've caught up with a Fiat 500. Oh, who's got out of our way? Oh, it's lovely. And there we are at 70 miles an hour. I look forward to sharing the performance section of this video with you in a moment. Now, as you'll know, part of what we do here on the channel in these videos is look at this car through a modern lens. How does it compare to more modern cars, and how does it cope with a modern day commute in 2021? So we'll be looking at things like practicality and reliability. We'll look at comfort. How comfortable is this car? We'll look at technology. After all, this is a very high specification car for 1998. So how does it compare with more modern cars? And we'll take a look at the stereo. We'll talk about performance, and in a BMW M3, you think this one would do quite well under that category. We'll talk about where to put the important commuter coffee and commuter snacks. And importantly, we'll try and work out what this car says about you when you get to the office. So thanks so much for joining me on this drive to work today. Don't forget to hit like on the video, it really helps promote it. Do subscribe if you haven't done so already. And please do leave us a comment. Let me know what you think about the BMW and about these videos. Is there anything else that you want to see in the commute to work videos? But as always, let's get a few miles done and report back on the BMW E36 M3. So let's talk about practicality and reliability. And the first thing to say on the subject of practicality is about fuel economy. Now, we all know this is a 3.2 litre 6-cylinder engine, so it's not going to be the most frugal. On a run, I would suggest you can expect at best mid-20s, and around town quite a bit less than that. But what does help this car in the fuel economy front is the all-important 6th speed, which came as standard on the M3 Evolution but wasn't a feature on the BMW E36 M3, the original release. But having said all of that, if you own a BMW M3 now or in the late 90s, then you can afford to fuel this car and use it every day. And that's one of two reasons why this is the only trip that this car will ever make to work with me. One, because I can't afford it, and the second reason I'll share a little bit later in the video. On to reliability then. Well, this car's covered 148,000 miles, but has been very well maintained. It still feels really tight. The gearbox feels good, clutch, accelerator, the steering feels right. Mechanically, this car is spot on, and it's retained much of its 321 brake horsepower from new some 22 years ago. There's no reason at all that I couldn't drive right past Exeter and all the way up to Scotland in this car, as is its reliability. It really is that good. You'd have to stop for fuel a few times though, I expect. So with regard to whether you could drive this car every day, I certainly think you could, and my belief is that this car will be still around and still covering miles long after a lot of the modern stuff that's surrounding me today on my drive to work is long forgotten. On to comfort then, and this is an executive coupe. The BMW M3 is fitted with these very attractive and very comfortable leather Vader Sport seats. The driving position is quite laid back, but still really comfortable. You've got this very nice armrest and this very nice leather steering wheel, which is quite chunky and decent to hold. Being a BMW, everything is directed at the driver and exactly where you need it to be. This car is all about the driver, and this driver is very happy and very comfortable. So this was a really high specification car back in the mid-90s, and well, much of the kit that's on board in this car remains an option on most modern cars, and that includes BMWs. So what do we have? Well, we have front electric windows, electric mirrors, electric sunroof. We've got a very nice cassette radio with a 6-disc CD changer. We also have dual zone digital climate control and this very nice trip computer that tells you more than most modern cars. Also, being sat here in the BMW M3, you are reminded wherever you look that you're in an M car. You got the M badge on the steering wheel, the M badge on the gear stick, the M colours on the seats, the M badge on the dashboard, and of course this being an M series BMW, it has the red needles, not the silver ones, and the miles per gallon gauge, the fuel gauge, has actually been changed for a oil temperature gauge. So in comparison to modern cars, this car stands up again very, very well. If you hit that traffic jam, you're not going to be bored in your BMW M3 Evolution. What is it with 90s cars and the lack of cup holders? How on earth did any of us survive? Once again, nowhere to put the commuter coffee, or today the commuter smoothie, which kind of felt more appropriate for an M3. I'm not really sure why. Reasonable door pockets for some commuter snacks, but I'm left holding the coffee or the smoothie once again. So our commute to work today is actually a journey of two parts, as I need to stop in Ashburton, around 20 miles short of Exeter, briefly for a meeting this morning. So I'm going to go there, get that done, and then I'll rejoin you. We'll pick this up again and we'll cover off the rest of our drive to work in our BMW M3 Evolution. So we're back in the car, and it's time for a performance test. Now, those of you that have seen these videos before will know we do our performance test as we climb Holden Hill, which is just under a mile incline as you drive towards Exeter from the southwest. The trick is you go in at the bottom at 70 miles an hour in top gear, which for this car is 6th, and you see if you're still maintaining that speed at the very top. But surely this is going to be a bit of an academic test for this, because after all, this is a BMW M3, and performance for this car is its bread and butter. It certainly handles well as we go around this corner. In fact, I'm about to meet traffic, which is a real shame, but so far holding nicely at 70 miles an hour, and we've come up behind a Vauxhall Vectra. Anyway, as I say, performance is this car's bread and butter. The 3.2 litre straight 6 engine produces 321 brake horsepower, which is 35 more than the original E36 M3 offering with that 3 litre engine. This car's capable of 155 miles an hour and a 0 to 60 time of 5.5 seconds. Again, continuing the theme that's been right throughout this video, those stats would embarrass most cars that are made today, most performance cars that are made today. This really is a quick car. But having said that, I mean, the power delivery is very linear, and the car is absolutely effortless to drive. I mean, we're in 6th gear, we've dropped down to 60 because we've caught up with a Vauxhall Vectra that seems to like the right hand lane and should really be in the left hand lane, but that doesn't matter. And at 60 miles an hour, still on the incline, top gear, you accelerate and this car just picks up so nicely. It really is effortless to drive. But does it feel as quick as maybe those stats suggest? I've no reason at all to doubt those statistics. Absolutely, this car is fast, but it doesn't feel that fast. And I would say that I've driven more exciting cars with slightly less brake horsepower and performance stats, and for less money. I'm not saying it's a bad car, it's an absolutely brilliant car, but just not sure it's my cup of tea. So what does this car really say about you at the office? Well, the first thing to note is that I'm wearing aviator sunglasses today, and for some reason they just felt right and proper when driving this car, when driving a BMW M3, particularly one from the late 90s. You see, there's a bit of a stigma, isn't there, surrounding BMW drivers. I'm not entirely sure that it's fair, but having said that, you know, I'm probably the only driver of this car in its 22 years to ever properly use the indicators, and to be honest, well, these stalks, they do feel like new. So when you drive this car into the work car park, one thing that you can expect, and that's that heads will turn. The fantastic and beautiful Estorial blue paintwork with the lovely M Contour alloy wheels. There was nothing else like that around back in the late 90s. And it's got such a nice exhaust note. It's bloody lovely. And it doesn't really matter what people think, because they're not going to say anything. You see, deep down, they too want to be driving a BMW M3 Evolution. And the likelihood is your boss will come and see you after you've brought the car in for a few weeks, and he'll probably ask you if you wouldn't mind leaving the car at home sometimes, because when you bring it to work, well, productivity of the workforce is down. Hang on a minute. Boss, what am I talking about? You drive a BMW M3 Evolution. You are the boss. So here we are, we've just arrived in Exeter, and it's time to sum up our drive to work in our BMW M3 Evolution. And the first thing to say is, well, this car drives like a new car. In fact, I would say the leap from this into a more modern car just isn't really that significant. It drives well, it's reliable, it's got adequate performance, it's comfortable, it's everything you want in a car, and it really, once again, makes the point that you can commute to work in a modern classic car, particularly if it's a BMW E36 M3 Evolution. I did say earlier that it's not really my cup of tea, and that's probably me being unfair on the car, because the car is brilliant, and for those people out there who really love these vehicles, well, you know, I can see why. It is great. It's just not my thing. I don't think I'm that connected to BMWs, but really enjoyed driving this car in, and I've really enjoyed owning it. And the reason I say that, and like I said earlier, referring back to something I said, which is that this is a one commute drive for this car, it's not really because of the fuel bill, it's because we've actually sold it and it's being collected from Bristol this evening. I've got to drive it up later on today. It's off to Northern Ireland, this car, to join a really nice car collection. The new owner, Daniel, I'm sure will be very happy with this BMW E36 M3. So sad to see it go because it is such a pretty car, but pleased that it's going into a nice car collection where it's going to be cared for and where it's going to be used. So that's great. If you haven't seen it already, please do watch our full feature on the BMW E36 M3. We featured it quite early in our channel's history, so dig that video out. It covers the whole restoration process that this car went through. And also, please watch out for other videos where we commute to work in a modern classic. Hopefully you enjoy the videos. Do let me know in the comments below if you'd like to see anything else in these videos and your thoughts on the BMW M3. Also, don't forget to like and do subscribe if you haven't already. It's time for me now to go and do the second half of my day's work here in Exeter. Thanks so much for joining me on this drive to work, and I hope to see you again very, very soon here at Pentel Cars, Cornish Car Collectors. Bye for now. Bye-bye.